related to the challenge of, if you like, addressing some of the traditional accessibility issues, in the sense that in the traditional labor market, some groups, women find it more difficult to access some jobs, other types of workers, migrants, for instance. So there is a variety of different factors that make work less accessible for certain groups. Do you find that the platform economy first stage of development, although it's becoming a more mature sector now, has actually shown itself capable of curing these issues, or is it still a challenge to be addressed by the application of technology in this new type of labor market operation?
Yeah, it's a question that science increasingly looks at. And so I would say that this question has not yet been completely answered, but the first insights that we have is that indeed the inequalities that we find on traditional labor markets are replicated in the gig economy. It depends by sector, it depends also by country, but let's take women as an example. They seem to systematically earn less in the gig economy, and interestingly, even in the online gig economy. So even in that segment where if you do your work on a computer, you never see the person or you never meet the person who has asked for you to do the job. So even in this online segment, in this high school online segment, women earn systematically less. And then the question is, where does this come from? And I would think here in particular, we do not yet know enough. Some argue it comes from algorithmic search or algorithmic matching. It may also be a matter of training, for example, like the vulnerable groups, women, to be more demanding and not give in to wage pressure. So I think there is little we can say on the mechanisms, and the solution to the protection will depend on the mechanisms. And again, here I would say we don't know. But what is very clear is that so far the gig economy does not seem to take away these inequalities. And the big question is how to then do it. Maybe you have an answer to this question.
What has been your experience at Zenjob? I mean, a lot of business attention, obviously, most of it goes when we talk about people towards the customer, and, providing value to the customer. But now there seems to be this growing realization that people also, especially in the platform economy, also means the people who deliver the services. So what has been your experience at Zenjob in providing equal opportunities for women and other groups?
I can give you a very specific example from the very early days, actually. So in our area of work, it's quite usual that the customer will select the talent, right? Will decide, okay, I would like to have that person doing the job. And we were always wondering in the beginning, and that doesn't have to do anything with technology, to be honest, why? Like, why do you need now to select anything? If we tell you, we will provide you with someone who's going to be able to do the job, who's qualified to do the job, that's all you should care about, and not that you select individually. So customers at Zenjob were never able to select anyone individually, but they can rather say, for that kind of a work, we need that kind of a qualification. That's it. And then our algorithm comes into play. So therefore, we never had a problem when it comes to advantages or disadvantages, because we also analyze that always continuously internally between women and men, for example, or vulnerable groups and in general. But we were always trying to say, as long as you fulfill certain skills which are required, you're going to be matched. That's pretty much it. And I think you were talking about the responsibility of platforms also earlier. I think that's also a good one, basically, where you can approach platforms and say, you can always try when you start a new company, you can try at least to a certain level to change a few things here and there. And I think for us, it is still very important that this is also a business model and has to be successful. But besides that, with those tiny little things, you can still try to change some things. And we also realized that, for example, lots of customers were afterwards saying, that's amazing. It actually makes my job a lot easier. I don't even understand why I did it in advance. And I think, again, you were talking about the Fairs platform. Also something this institution we're looking at is exactly trying to understand, are there those differences? Are there differences in wages or anything like that? I also don't have the solutions. Why is this happening? How can we stop this from a broader point of view? But I think from a micro level as a company, you can for sure build certain measures within tech to ensure that it's get more equal. It never will be probably fully equal, but at least that's the way to go.